Hello and welcome to WrestleMania Goes Hollywood Night 2 Sunday Part 2, whatever you want to call it, review of WrestleMania. For Wrestling Headlines, my name is Matt Maher, aka Imp, and all of that other jazz and whatnot. This is certainly a show, and I've just realised I've opened up the wrong file in terms of my actual notes. That would have been pretty bad. But yes, welcome. This is talk about WrestleMania Hollywood. It's currently 10 to 5. I had set live to go at 5, expecting the show to go a little bit longer. Actually, I don't need these headphones on either, because I'm doing that. But yeah, we've had another very, very good WrestleMania. Spoilers, I am very high on this show. Just to give a massive kind of little bit of a terms of like, how are you going to break it down? I genuinely really enjoyed this show. Really, really enjoyed it. So I can't really complain. I'm not really going to be complaining too much. I had a really, really good time with this. And the ending, my God, the ending has got people talking. It's just, a lot of people want to talk about this main event, and we are going to start talking about this main event immediately, because some people's emotions are incredibly high over what's happened with this main event. Don't feel any fear if you do want to just have a quick moan or whatever in the chat. I was like, yeah, having a quick whinge or whatever. Oh, and thank you, Howard, for just letting me know my audio is good as well. That's good. That's good to know. That's good to know. But also, so I'm somebody who I'm perfectly fine with this, and because my reaction to how the main event ended was, oh, okay, I guess Roman really is getting that champion of the generation solidification, because there was that said like during Triple H kind of taking over like months and months ago. There was a kind of line. Also, my light's not bright enough. There we go, a little bit of a nerd moment none of you care about. Yeah, just that feeling that but there was the rumours that they're wanting to cement Roman as the champion of the generation, and that came out all the way back in like November or October, like a really long time ago. And that was my first thought when this main event angle finished. It's like, they are planning bigger than what we're doing here. This is like, they really are going for it and solidifying it. And yes, Nathan, feel free to get your emotions out there in the chat. But feel free to absolutely have a, oh my God, I'm done with this type of emotion to it. Because for me, like, I'm perfectly, for me, that's not my emotion. For me, it's definitely a question of what's next then. Because night one kind of was like, this is all about dismantling the bloodline. And when Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn came out during this match, it was like, they were just like, it's like they were re-solidifying it. It's like, this is all about the end of the bloodline, was the feeling. They did everything to convince us that this was Cody Rhodes' moment, and they did absolutely everything. But the entire time, the entire point was, it's all going, like, it wasn't for that. It was all about, no, we genuinely are solidifying Roman Reigns as the champion of a generation, which is not something WWE have done since, and obviously they gave the names. You're talking San Martino, you're talking Hulk Hogan, you're talking Backlund back into the 70s and 80s. They've not done what they're doing now since the 80s. It's been that long. And to be in this era where we actually do have a champion who's been a champion for this long. Like, we've had it in other companies. We've had long reigns elsewhere. We've had a year-long reigns already in AEW. We've had Kazuchika Okada's massively long reign, which are now a pretty certain Roman Reigns has gone past that here. It's like, it's something they don't normally do here. Just was it 4 years for Hogan? That's a number. I mean, if I'm right, he's going to go to at least 4 years now, because you cannot defeat Roman Reigns at any show that isn't WrestleMania. And I think the thing that doesn't break it for me is that they did build Cody over this year, but it was like a magical circumstance. It wasn't just that. It was the fact that the way he arrived in such a hot way at WrestleMania, the way he then won the fans over and then had an injury and had a match of the year thing with his injury, just brought every fan on his side. And he got the big return at the Royal Rumble. Like, that is something you don't plan on book. It was like a magical circumstance of everything coming together. Like, this is a once in a chance opportunity to do this. You didn't plan this. And like, personally, I am a fan of longer reigns, really, personally. I don't mind. I like a mix, really, to be fair. Like, I'm perfectly happy with different reigns. It's all about how you do it. And I felt like if Roman Reigns loses here, then it's fine. It's nailed it. Whatever. Whilst, for me, I I'm fine with the odd long reign. Like for me, after this one, I'm fine with Cody losing it within months. Just like I'm fine to not have a long reign for a very long time. You don't have to, like in, you don't have to like do what they did in like the Attitude Era, where they would just hot potato the belt every other week. But I don't need like a super long reign after. Like just let me catch a break, something like that. And I feel like, in terms of I do feel like agreeing with Howard in the chat a little bit. The one thing it has done is like, well, I do want to watch Raw now. It's like, well, what? At least to see what's next. Like, what are you going to do next? Because all of my thoughts were with Cody, and I was just thinking about Cody already, and everything felt like this is the final boss. You're really milking and soaking this in. This is the last of Roman Reigns as champion. But all of it was cementing it and putting it in to convincing us that that was the case. But it wasn't the case. So we all really buy into Cody's belief that he is going to win. But that's the thing with the Triple H regime. Under Vince, so that's why it's a weird feeling. Because you can obviously say, oh, WWE shouldn't do that. But this is the Triple H era. And for me, that is so different to the Vince era. And for me personally, the Vince era was just rife with short-term booking, short-term plans for everything. And for me, I have so much more confidence in the Triple H era, where I'm like, you did build a convincing... Like, Vince never managed to build a convincing contender for Roman Reigns, and Triple H did it in 1 year. And yes, it was the perfect brew of circumstances. It wasn't all like all to plans or whatever. But the fact that they did do it, and that tells me... And they built up Sami Zayn as well. Like, they have built up genuine contenders and fan favourites to take down Roman Reigns. Like, that's part one. Then what do you do next? As in, they have shown me they can do it. It's like, well, you've got another year to do it again. The only problem now is you had your guy that not only did you build up correctly, the fans massively got behind him. And you really went with it. You really kind of convinced them to buy into Cody's fight. And now you've got to win those fans back. Because those fans had bought into Cody's fight. They were ready to move on. They even had commentary saying during the match, like during the build-up as they were walking around and staring at each other, they had commentary say that the fans are ready for a change. And then they didn't give us a change. It's just like really doing everything to convince you that there's going to be a change. And it's just like because everything was presented with such competency, that I think that's the difference. If this happens under Vince, where it's also not being presented in a competent manner, that's when it's kind of like what are you doing here? But under Triple H, even though I think I would have personally had Roman Reigns lose, my immediate reaction isn't, oh, this is crap, this is awful, what are you doing, this is rubbish, you should have taken it, you should have given it to Cody. My initial reaction is, oh, I guess you are cementing it as Roman Reigns of the generation. I wonder how you're going to do that. I find that interesting. With my little asterisk that I am not a normal viewer of media. I've not been able to ever see. It's one of the things where if you talk to anybody who's done like film production or whatever education to any form of level, no one who's done that is able to just watch media normally. We're constantly breaking it down, and everything they do is like, oh, why did you do that? What film language are you doing that for? It's like I constantly analyse films as I'm watching them. I am not a normal viewer, but I've seen it. It's a genuine split, and it's genuinely. I feel like both emotional camps are correct, and that's what I find it so interesting. Just that's why immediately I was just like, if you need to vent in the chat, vent in the chat, because I genuinely feel like both sides are perfectly correct in their kind of belief of this, and that's why I'm genuinely excited for Raw. It's like, yeah, you got us to buy into this fight. And he built the story in such a competent way that I trust that you could build up another person. You've got a full year. An absolute full year. And I mean, of course, one of the points that Nathan pointed out in the chat is that they put all of that effort into building up Cody. And is that now just a waste of them doing that? Under Vince, yes. But this is the first time with Triple H. Like, this is obviously Triple H's first WrestleMania. We do not know how Triple H resets. In terms of that famous thing where you have your big matches or whatever, you got your big pay-per-views. I remember 1 year in the Daniel Bryan era where they had a big Survivor Series, and afterwards they just hit resets to run into the Royal Rumble. It's just that way you give everybody new storylines. They all kind of go onto their new paths, and tell us what you're going to be doing for the next few months to get us to buy into those storylines. We've not seen that with Hunter, because he's not been in charge long enough. This is the first time we've had the absolute kind of peak of the storylines and programs. What happens next? And I was watching the Sammy stuff, and I remember there's a lot of people who did not want Sammy to be in the tag title match. They were like, no, if Sammy's going for the title, he has to win. Just because they did such a good job of, just like done with Cody, where they've put months into building this arc and story up where, is it really the right thing if the end point is him winning the tag titles? And I look at it and I'm like, we're assuming this is the end point. Because under Vince it would be. He only books 2 WrestleMania. He was always short-term booking. And that's kind of why it was a lot of moments and not much in actual substance. Like it was that negative twang to it. Whilst here with Triple H, I don't know yet, because this is the first time I've actually gone to WrestleMania, so what I'm about to say could be complete bull. Which is that thing of, when I've watched New Japan Pro Wrestling, because that is a really good comparison, they did exactly what I did with Cody, but they did it with a guy called Tetsuya Naito. And it was also during Kazuchika Okada. I think at that point he'd been champion for 2.5 years. And then they built up a guy who the fans were massively behind, and they had the dominant champion win, even though the crowd were white hot for the other guy. This new person who'd been built up and won the fans over. They were massively for it, and then they didn't have him win. And they did a great job to build him back up and challenge 2 years later. That's what they did. WWE. And of course, the difference there was that Okada dropped the belt to somebody else who he was also having a massive feud with. So I guess the comparison is, it's like they built up Cody, but then Roman ends up dropping the belt to Sammy later on, and then Roman gets the belt back, and then Cody still gets to beat him. It's just later down the line. It's a weird comparison. It's the point that I have seen recently. What did a company do when they had this situation of dominant champion, then guy rises up who the fans are massively behind, so you book that as your big main event of, it was Okada versus Naito, and it was an incredible atmosphere just like this match, but then you have the dominant champion retain. It's like, in New Japan there was always that belief of competency. This is the first time in WWE that's been there that I can think of, where once WrestleMania hits, I've got a somewhat belief that they've got plans afterwards. That was never the case with Vince. with here, it's like, oh, what now then? With Vince, it was, what now then? Like, very different tones to the same thing. Anyway, I still, again, encourage the venting, because I'm going to talk about the actual flow of the match in terms of the things that I liked, that I didn't like, or whatever. And obviously, feel free to still get it out of your system while we're doing this. Yeah, I could encourage debate. I love this stuff. So, Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes for the Undisputed Championship. First off, good God, Cody's theme getting the woe from a crowd this big has some oomph behind it. Like, hitting my emotional core as well, where he goes to ringside and he's hugging his kid and he gives his belt to Brody Lee's son. It's like, oh man, you're winning over my heart. There's no way you're losing. It's kind of what I mean. Like, all of the bells and whistles to let you know that this is a babyface you can get behind. This is a guy who's going to show you that he in this fight that he has earned winning the championship. It's like, they pulled all of the production tricks. They knew what they were doing. It's kind of why my nerdy brain kicks on, and I'm just like, oh man, they really did pull all of the bells and whistles to convince us that Cody was winning here. Roman as well, his entrance also incredible. Like, Roman getting an awesome classical piano orchestra entrance, like epic final boss music, incredible grand scale cinematography as he walks out and just poses, camera pounds around, you see all of the crowd behind him. It's like, oh man, that was something. Yeah, some special, and that was the case throughout all of the show. There's so many fantastic entrances, but in this main event specifically, they really brought it out. Like, in terms of just like the production and the feel to it, it felt like a special main event. Like, genuinely, with the crowd reaction, the genuine biggest feel to a WrestleMania main event in a long time. I cannot remember the last time it felt this big. Like, the last time there was this level of fan investment was probably Daniel Bryan back in WrestleMania 30. That's almost a full decade ago. God, that was a decade ago. Anyway, pull back from feeling old. But still, that was a long time ago, and that I can't remember the last time where the whole match felt such big scale in a genuine, naturally built way. Last year was more artificial, it's best to say. It's like Edge Randy Orton greatest match of all time. It's like, no, it was manufactured hype. This was genuine big scale feel, and I am a massive fan. Actually, just something I've seen in the chat, just the idea of they could vacate the WWE Championship or Universal so Cody could win that belt. I'm so sorry, Howard, for making you feel old. I suddenly just said out loud that the Daniel Bryan WrestleMania 30 was a decade ago, and I just had that pause as like, oh dear, that was a decade ago. Oh dear. But yeah, there's the idea of could you vacate one title? Because so there have been rumours that there have been belt designs done and approved, and there is a new title that has been designed. That doesn't mean made. That doesn't mean they're going ahead with it. That means a design's been made and they liked that design and they would go with it for a new title. I don't know if that means a new title for Raw. I don't know if that means a new title for Roman Reigns, so he's not carrying around two belts, which again is something comparative to New Japan Wrestling again, where eventually they were like, let's just have one belt. Not have him carrying on both if we're never going to split them. Why is he carrying both belts? Which is different to the tag belts because they did defend either belt as well because they're TV show related. Whilst these belts were more... It's like the Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. You've got the wrong colour, so you must change the belts. Like they're colour coordinated, but you can change the colour. It's all right. But if it's a new title for Raw, that's what I'm massively behind. And I think it's probably wiser if you create one title for Roman Reigns, like an undisputed championship like they did back in 2002, I want to say, where you create that undisputed title and you have Roman Reigns carrying around the undisputed championship, and then you create a new title for Raw. But I know they're like lineage, so maybe this is going to be like a split again or whatever. But yeah, I just kind of, because that lineage still exists through Roman, through the undisputed championships, and maybe you do introduce a new belt. Maybe that's where they go for it. And for me, that's one thing that's been massively missing from Raw is a world championship belt, and I think if you go by Triple H's booking, it's kind of evident that that's the thing that is just lacking, and it would be very surprised if he's not aware of it. So I would go with doing that. I think that's what I'd do. You create a new championship, and you make Roman Reigns as two championships kind of solidify into an undisputed title. Don't call it the undisputed WWE Universal Championship. That's a stupid name, but just call it something, and continue Roman Reigns' reign of dominance. Also, the one thing is him holding both belts looks awesome in terms of a grand scale of. It's like when Kenny Omega was winning all of the belts in AEW, and he's just got this barrage of belts all around him. Just as like he is a belt winner, he is a prize fighter. It really does help that image in a way. It's not necessary. So it's not necessary. I was reading Howard's comment out loud so I can actually take it in. Issue with vacating one belt is immediately devalue the vacated belt because the vacated belt is, by any measure, not as valuable as the one that wasn't. Which is kind of what I agree with, where instead of vacating, you keep their lineages together like it currently is with Roman Reigns, and you create an undisputed championship. And then you create a brand new title to be like the world title on Monday Night Raw. Don't know what you call it. If you call it the Raw Championship, you're stupid. But you can do it if you want. I can't stop you. You can call it whatever you want. The red belt, the red championship, whatever you want to call it. The red Raw belt, I don't know. Just call it something better than that. Bring back the World Heavyweight Championship. and add something that's got prestige or fight. They brought back the LWO. Like, they're not against bringing back WCW stuff. You can bring back more. But still, there's things you can do. I think for me, you don't vacate any of the belts that Roman's holding, but I definitely agree with the idea that Monday Night Raw needs a belt, and all of those wrestlers being able to go after something that isn't Reigns related is kind of important in building them up, giving them an avenue to actually go for. Either that or just make the brand splits a lot looser. I feel like long term, especially with something like this, it kind of... it's a weird one as well, because that makes Roman Reigns as the champion feel less important in a way if there is a championship that isn't his. But I don't think it's the end of the world. Like, he's so dominant, I don't think it matters. Like, they can build up the lineage of the championship, especially as you've got pay-per-views to fill without Roman. It'd be really useful to have a world title to defend on there. real useful. They managed it for most of Roman's reign. So, yeah. But yes, I like the split of two world titles on either show. having one title, I feel like kind of drains it, especially if you are still sticking with the split. That's the other thing as well. If Triple H doesn't want to do the split and slowly breaks that down, that's another way to make it slightly different. But I genuinely feel like there needs to be an avenue to become a world champion outside of Roman Reigns, specifically just because of the longevity of Roman Reigns' title. He's still the champion, still the big dog. But the title on Raw should still be the number 2 championship in the company. But Roman Reigns, with it becoming so long, you start to need to give kind of world title variation. Really, that's whatever. But in the match itself, Roman, I realised 20 minutes in I've got a full card to get through. So Roman oozing the aura of a dominant champion, Cody proving himself and fighting up, Solo Sikoa stealing the momentum away with interferences, but Cody wins with the big spot moment, gaining that momentum suddenly as Roman crashes through the announce table. Done really, really well, just in terms of like Cody was struggling to get in, and suddenly, oh, he can win here, he can do this, he's now got an avenue to build momentum, which I thought was great. Sikoa's ejection as well was another, it turns out, like really important moment in terms of the split. In terms of, this is the moment we're kicking into the end of it. Sikoa ejected after an amazing heel moment, kicking us into the next aspect of this match by whipping Cody with the belt our hero gave to Brody Lee's son. What a heel. What a heel. You don't get more heel than that. Like you don't get any more babyface than John Cena coming out with Make-A-Wish kids. The ultimate super babyface entrance. Unbooable. And then Sikoa, ultimate heel. It just... using the belt that Cody Rhodes gave to a respected deceased wrestler's kid. And then Sikoa steals that belt and whips Cody with it. What a heel. What a heel. But that led to a crazy rise in atmosphere as the crossroads off the back of that spot was hit, and you got your first near fall from that. Just like, yeah. Oh. It's like, and no Artec. In the chat, they're suggesting that, see, we're on Rumble 2024 for Reigns versus Lesnar. Absolutely not. If Vince takes over and runs Reigns versus Lesnar again, I refuse to cover it. Like, no. Don't even put it in the air. Not happening. I mean, obviously, when I say not happening, I mean, in terms of me watching it again and honestly reviewing it, no. Absolutely not. I'm not doing it. Well, still, moving on. The crowd were then on their feet after that crossroads near fall spot as the signature moves started to fly and the counters came in. An amazing Cody... Well, my personal favourite of them was the amazing Cody cutter into the Superman punch counter. Such a well done spot. Yeah, the two doing an incredible job of getting us to buy into Cody's belief that he can win. I really felt in the latter half of this match they were really doing the bells and whistles to get us behind Cody Rhodes, which works wonders when Roman locks in his guillotine choke, because we are so used to that being the end to Roman Reigns' matches. He has won so many main event matches with that guillotine choke. So when he locks it in with Cody, your automatic reaction is like, that's it. It's like, and yes, Howard. Howard just wanted the world to burn with the idea of Reigns Lesnar. Vince is back in charge, and I mean, if he gets back in charge of creative, which he currently isn't, and because he's not CEO like he was before, like it still is Nick Khan. You saw Nick Khan all over this show. If you've not watched my night one review, like get my reaction to the Cinemoji stuff. I was just like, what is this? What is this Cinemoji bollocks? Given I'm English as well, so I have no idea what Cinemoji is. That was my first exposure to whatever the hell that is. Nightmare fuel. Anyway. So we're just so used to the guillotine choke ending the matches, and that for me led into a really believable switch into the, oh wait, no, but he is Roman Reigns and he can win like this, and that's a setup for him actually winning. So they at least put the work in the match. It's not. I personally still would have had Cody win, just because you've done such a good job of convincing us. Unless the plan the entire time is to convince us so that we have this reaction. And then you rinse and repeat. Because they built up Sammy well, they built up Cody well. They've now got a full year to build up other people well. And they've shown me they can do it. So, yeah, again, that's why my reaction is, oh, what's next? Rather than, what's next? Two very, very different things. But you also know this is really a WrestleMania main event when both lads are down after a ref bump. It's like, we've had an announce table spot, we've got both people down after a ref bump. This is a WrestleMania main event. It's got all the bells and whistles. The Usos running in to repeat the pattern we've become so used to over Roman's reign. When the babyface gains too much momentum, out come the faction to interfere. But this time, just letting us know, it gave us that feeling that this is about the breaking down of the bloodline. Because Sami and Kevin Owens came in and evened up the numbers to a huge pop. And also hit a stunner to Roman, a Hoover kick to Roman, meaning that because the Usos had come in and super kicked Cody, that then meant that both of the guys in the ring were back onto the same even damaged footing. Neither guy had an advantage over the other anymore. It was even. Like Sami crawling to the cover for the slow kick out. It's like, it's so good. At this point, the crowd are so into absolutely everything these guys are doing. Like a lovely moment as Cody countered the Superman punch with a bionic elbow. I love that. Feet flowing into uppercutting like his brother and flying with crossroads after crossroads. That's like, I love that. Well, it's the Dusty move, it's the Dustin move, and then it's Cody. It's like, I love that family innovation. Heyman, in pure desperation, climbing up onto the apron. I like this as well, as in Heyman climbs up when Cody's hit 2 crossroads, and he's like, oh my god, my investment is about to lose. This cannot happen. And so I just love that was the moment that Heyman starts to interfere. But that allows Sikoa to get into the match, to sneak back in and spike Cody in the corner, into the spear. Roman retains, and immediately I'm just like, you set up Sikoa stepping up on Monday Night Raw as well. It's like competency. even though I would not have gone with this same thing, there's clear evidence of competency in the setting up and storytelling of what happens. Like, this is why it's different from the Vince era. There's so many little pieces of detail. It's like, you have thought about this. You have done little story beats to build up and make things make sense for them to then happen on the big stage. Half the crowd in quiet shock as Roman Reigns retains, having fully bought into Cody's fight, or at least bought into the idea that this was the moment for Roman Reigns' reign to come to an end. You've created a credible challenger. It's that boiling pot of just amazing circumstance. You surely have to jump on this, and they've pushed with everything to convince us. Some of it with your normal wrestling logic, some of it just with pure good babyface fire, others with production and TV manipulation of an audience. And that's why I'm applauding it, because I'm a nerd for that stuff. Just to convince us that it is Cody winning the match's moment, only to completely pull the rug out. But the other half of the crowd holding up their fingers in acknowledgement. Like, I don't know if it was just me, but I thought I could tell on the audio that it wasn't a full, like, boo, you're the ultimate heel, you won. It was split. Somewhat in the crowd. Like, you had the true believers, and then you had the Roman Reigns fans. It was genuinely a split. WWE did everything to convince us it was Cody's time. Again, even have commentary telling us the fans were ready for a change. They did everything, only to pull the rug out right from under us in a retention. And for me, again, my first reaction was that I guess this really is WWE giving Roman that champion of the generation solidification that was rumoured all the way back in October, November. This is them following through with that idea. They are doing it. This isn't just a long reign or whatever. This isn't just we're going to build. It's not one of those things where he hasn't lost because we haven't built up a credible champion. It's one of those things of no. It's our job to continue to build up credible contenders because his reign has to be long because we are keeping him as the champion of the generation. It's a bold idea. to be fair, it's bold. It's brave. We'll see if it pays off, because obviously to have the confidence to not change the belt now, because that means they have the confidence that they will build up another person. Like, take some balls to say no to this level of build for Cody. When they nail it at this level and they go, no, we have the confidence to do this, it's like, I mean, good luck to you. That's a brave decision. Super, super brave. But, yeah. And it says a lot just by like the immediate reaction to this. Like I kind of knew the boiling pot I was about to jump into. Just seeing the immediate reaction online is like, there are some people who are very, very like. That's kind of why I was like, if you need to rant. This is a safe space. Rant. It's fine. It's just, yeah. My kind of personal thing is, You have convinced me through the competency in the way that you told this story and the stuff around it with the Sami Zayn, Jey Uso stuff, that I have the confidence that you can tell another competent story. But it's more that, but I haven't seen it though. I have confidence, I don't have belief. They're two very different things. And obviously WWE and Hunter and the creative team, whatever, they have the belief they can do it. So yeah. But overall, WrestleMania Sunday, overall as a show, I absolutely loved. I have for both nights of WrestleMania, I'm really high on, like almost glowing reviews. Yes, there's negatives. Yes, there's stuff I didn't like. Yes, the sponsorship stuff, the Nick Khan effect on this show is really not for me. And in terms of the shows overall, for me, I would give them 5-star, 10 out of 10. Fantastic. This is a really well done WrestleMania thing. Aside from the fact that the pacing absolutely kills them. Like if you're watching this show like from start to end, that it cannot be 10 out of 10. It can't be 5 out of 5 because the pacing just kills you. There's 15-20 minute gaps in between matches and it's just nothing but filler and advertisement and sponsorships. Then you get to the matches and there's more filler and sponsor advertisements and it's just all over the place. It's like, I'm perfectly fine with Nick Khan realising that there's so much more opportunity for sponsored content. I'm perfectly fine with the advertisement boards around the edge of the ring. I don't mind matches getting specific sponsorships. But if you have the full emoji guy dancing next to them, piss off. No, absolutely not. If a match is sponsored as a thing and it's the name graphics are like that sponsorship, that's fine. If you're cutting to the ring and before the match starts while the wrestlers are coming out, you have the AR graphic and they'll run down the advert, they'll say it out loud or whatever, like Snickers, get your Snickers, you get your Snickers here. That sort of thing. This, like they did with Hell in a Cell. Like this movie's coming out soon. Don't forget this movie's coming out soon. Guess what? I've already forgotten the movie because we're not here to. I'm watching a match. Obviously, I'm different because I'm making notes of the match. But did you know Russell Crowe's in the film? I'm watching the match. So, go away, Russell. Go away. But still, I feel like it. My main point with it is you can incorporate all of that stuff, but the moment it starts to take away, because again, I don't mind the AR graphic read the street because that feels like a modern day version of like they did with the Snickers adverts in this show, where you get the logo of the thing and then the commentators read out the line, you move on. Like the AR graphic is no different than that. But when you've sponsored an entire match around a sponsored thing and you're really pushing that home and you've made so much money off of it, I can't remember, but I think Nick Khan said they've made about 20 million off of the sponsorship alone for WrestleMania. And it's just like, and they're really hammering that home. The news came out today with the deal with Endeavour, where WWE has been bought by Endeavour. So we're about to enter a completely new era. Same ownership as UFC as well, which is an interesting little tidbit. But yeah, it's an interesting one with the sponsorship push in terms of the Nick Khan vision, because he is right that there is a lot more opportunity for advertising space within WWE. And there's some of it works, and I fully believe some of it doesn't. And the big thing is in finding that balance is it needs to not take away from the viewership experience. It can interrupt a little bit, I guess, if you simply must. But I don't want it to do what it did in the Rey Mysterio match. I don't want it to do what it did in the Intercontinental one as they're making their entrances. In terms of the other stuff as well, is they're starting to put the advertisements in kind of key attention span moments. There's like that point where you are paying fullest attention because you are invested. That's when they play an advert. That I'm like, absolutely not, because I am invested in what I'm watching, and you are now de-investing me by pulling me away and doing an advertisement spot. It was Roman Reigns doing his entrance. He's made it to the end of the ramp, and then they pull to a wide shot and do the advertisement read for whatever the bloody tax return thing was. So I don't know. These American companies, I don't know any of them. And it's just that thing of, you're pulling me out of my investment of your thing, therefore you are actively hindering the viewer experience. And for me, that's a no-no. Don't ever do that. Yes, they paid a lot of money to get the advertisement around there, but don't ever do that. Like the sponsored graphic along the bottom, absolutely fine. The advertisement playing before the match, absolutely fine. The way they did it, where it was video package, then advertisement, not fine. But I know why they're doing it. It's because you're invested once that video package ends. You're ready for the match. So let's play you an advertisement. that actively hinders the viewer experience because you are ready for the next thing, and you just like, get to the match. It's just so much. It's so bad. The worst one, I think, was after the women's match. Or I don't know if it was a women's match. That's for one of the matches. It was like 15 minutes of pure fluff, nothing, sponsorship bullshit, all the way to the next match. I was just like, this is ridiculous. And then he did it between so many different matches. So, can't give it 10 out of 10 out of 5 because of the Nick Khan sponsorship stuff. It's, again, there's a lot of things where I feel like, you know what, this can be fine. However, pacing-wise, you have broken this show. It's just, the match. What really helps is the matches themselves are fantastic. These WrestleManias would do really well as a replays and stuff because you can just skip it. You can absolutely skip it. The sponsorship that pissed off Howard was the Intuit one with the replay of Sammy winning was sponsored by Intuit. That's true. Yes. Yeah. That one was again. That one was quite funny. I feel like. Again, still the most egregious stuff is I didn't like. I can't remember what it's called. I'll call him Hard Mike's Lemonade, whatever it was called, and the sin emoji bullshit. I felt like they were just intrusive into the thing. It was in its core. It was like, oh, this is getting in the way of this thing, and I was really happy when I was able to just focus on the matches and stuff. So yeah. Anyway, I'm going to get through the kind of card as a whole as it is 5 in the morning. I do want to get to sleep. So, first of all, WrestleMania Sunday, Hollywood, California, an announced attendance of 81,395. Take that as you will. We'll find out the actual attendance within the future. That's the thing. Again, we're out of the Vince era, but I'm just conditioned to not take any announced attendance that they say with any legitimacy because there's so many years of okay, sure, whatever. That's the number you've randomly pulled out your ass or whatever. It's like, that's the number when you include all of the staff working for WWE, all of the staff working for the venue. This is the people within and around the building, around the parking lot. This is not the people in attendance for the show. It's like, yeah, once that's all gone and we actually get the actual number, it's still impressive. It's going to be around 80,000. It's still massive, but it's not, And what part of it for me is it's guaranteed. As soon as I saw 80,000 for the first one, I was like, well, the next one's going to be 81,000. They somehow fit 400 more people between these two different shows, even though they're both apparently meant to be sellouts. I was like, well, which one's true then? What's true? Also heard via crowd reactions. Even the first night, apparently some of the screens started going black, so people high up couldn't see anything that was going on. And you heard a few cheers in the crowd early on as well. So for both shows, they had those issues, which kind of sucks. But the team got it sorted for like the important stuff later on. Kevin Hart introducing us once again to a night of action. Miz and Snoop running down the card again. We've got more of them later. Brock Lesnar versus Omos. Right. Oh, he is tall though, isn't he? You got to get over how tall he is. Get the fans like, oh, how's Lesnar going to lift him? He's so tall. And then he lifts him. All about building to the F5 on the tall man. And I will say, my only note on the Brock Lesnar Omos match is there was an awesome wide shot as he hit the move, just really capturing the mass of people rising to their feet for the finish. Visually, really impressive. However, you saw how impressive it felt in the Intercontinental and in the title match for the end, when the fans were really, really invested in these characters in these moments. And then you get to do the wide shot of those big moments. You really feel it. I was impressed with the Lesnar Omos, kind of the way they produced it and the way it's kind of done. It's like, you know what? This is exactly what it needs to be. Just like the John Cena match at the start. You got to see the lad hit the things that you wanted to see him hit. Job done. I honestly didn't hate it. I'm not going to give it anything higher than a 2.5 or 2 or whatever. But still, I didn't hate it. And for me, that's why for me, star ratings and like my personal enjoyment ratings are different things. And for me, this was perfectly fine. Like, I didn't hate it. I've not got a lot to say about it, but like the match was exactly what it needed to be. Absolutely fine. Got the crowd kind of invested. They popped big for the F5. You got the awesome wide shot visual. I would then later find out that wide shot visual would be even more awesome when they're actually genuinely invested in the stuff. But still, a decent start. And I'm going to run through this next match as well. Not a lot of notes on it, especially as I just want to really talk about the match afterwards. the women's showcase match. Liv Morgan and Raquel Gonzalez versus Natalya and Shotzi versus Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green versus Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. I was in a chat with a load of other people, of which a comment from Rich Latter that I'm going to steal, where he was just like, were these teams picked out of a hat? It's like, what are these teams? And watching the match, I was like, this is a match. It certainly was a match. Like, very similar to the feel of the women's tag match last year, but just worse. Like, in that, like, just like last year you had Sasha Banks and Naomi. This year you had Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. There's really only one team that is convincingly going to win this multi-woman tag match. Like, there was only ever really one solid team going into it, whilst you got those three teams picked out of a hat at random, so you know the clear winners. But this year, the massive difference was that the run of action just wasn't anywhere near as fluid. Like, the momentum peaks were nowhere near as high. Because obviously you had Rhea Ripley and Sasha Banks and, and Naomi and stuff in that previous match. Like, they were quite high peaks you were able to hit in that one. Whereas in this one, they just didn't hit anywhere near as high. Then you add in the fact that, cause I don't know how much there was to it, but for the end, Shayna Baszler came in with one boot off and looked very injured. Ronda Rousey did absolutely nothing until the final part. Like, she was not involved at all. So, and of course she had some form of like tapings around her arm or wrist. I can't remember if she's had that recently or not. But it's got the vibe that both of them were injured, so they set up the match so that they didn't have to do anything, or at least Ronda was injured, so it was already set up for her to not particularly be that involved. Then Shayna got injured, and then suddenly you've got this really weird flow problem where one of the teams is just no longer in the match. Both of those women, Shayna and Ronda, were completely out of it until the finish. In they came and stole the win, essentially. Just randomly appearing at the end to win the match, and they did nothing else. It's like, that, okay, fine, whatever. That's it. I've got no other bits. That's just it. There's nothing to say about this match. It happened. Which I feel like is quite an indictment kind of on it. It's like, yeah, this is maybe the weak point in terms of the actual matches themselves. This is maybe the one weakness part, which is a shame. It's a shame. After this, absolutely egregious amount of time killing. I think this one was 15 minutes of between matches, and absolutely nothing happened for 15 straight minutes. Then they make their entrances, and the match actually begins like 20-25 minutes after the previous one. And this is just what I mean by, it's fine to really encourage sponsorship stuff in different ways and try and come up with really creative ways to kind of ingrain it into the show. But when you have 20-25 minutes between matches, I cannot give it a full rating because you have broken your show. For one of the bits, Bobby Lashley came out. Bobby Lashley's out on stage with his Andre trophy. Kind of pumps the air, and that's that. Okay. whatever. Cool. Then we get to the next match. Ruby belly. This next match. Oh dear. Have a sip of sponsored Magners. Yes, the bird's chirping outside my window. It is a delicious Magners. Get your Magners now. 4.5% alcohol. That's one thing. Random tangent. But I don't know what ciders are like in America, because I have heard they're not alcoholic. So I do just want to confirm that this is 4.5%. Just a little nod of cider in our country. Yeah. Properly alcoholic. Yeah. Anyway, just a little random tangent I heard. So next up, Gunter, Drew McIntyre, Sheamus for the Intercontinental Championship. Yes. All of the match. Great match. Fantastic stuff. So physical. So many chops. Love to see the WWE crowd getting so loud on their feet for a match like this. No pretty sequences. Three lads just hitting each other. All three lads' chests bright red and bruising. 30 beats to Drew, getting an amazing ovation for Sheamus. The crowd was so behind Sheamus in this match. They really bought into him. And they played on that in the match itself as well, where like Drew McIntyre was the one kind of costing him, and he kind of bring the fans even more to their side. They booked this knowing. They did such a good job. Gradually building from clobbering lumps to launching chomps. Like, the crowd so into Sheamus, popping to their feet behind him every single time. The Drew and Sheamus dynamic really built incredibly well. Like the animosity bubbling to an absolute heat, especially when Drew pulled him out after he'd hit the bro kick on Gunther, and pulled him out of the ring, and he just Sheamus's face as those two were like, "I'm gonna beat the crap out of you," and they just clobbered lumps off of each other. It's like, oh, it was so good. The ending for me was the ending. I thought got some people not massively happy. For me, I thought it was great. Drew and Shamu clobbering the utter shite out of each other, when in returns Gunther to smack 'em and stack 'em, power bombs to both lads and pinning the Scot for the win. For me, this match was eye-wateringly spectacular. Like just the emotion and just it's like, oh, wrestling. I just felt after watching this match, all of the stars. This was fantastic. It's everything that I wanted it to be. It's everything that I was hoping it was going to be as well. Yeah. Fantastic. Like the Gunther, Sheamus, Drew trio. It was like, it's just great to see this kind of match getting such a reaction like that from the fans as well. I mean, it's so physical, which is that style I've seen Gunther wrestle so much, especially as a guy like from the UK, having seen him like rise through the European Indies quite a bit as well. It's just like, to see him get such a reaction at WrestleMania stage. It's like, yes, and he retained as Intercontinental Champion as well. Yeah, absolutely spectacular. Watch this match. I'm going to watch it again at some point. Just, it's so good. It's so good. Cannot recommend it enough. Right. I would talk about it more if we hadn't spent half an hour talking about getting through all the Roman Reigns stuff, because of course, like that was the massive talking point. It was like, it just means I haven't got the time to talk about this absolutely spectacular Intercontinental Championship match. But genuinely, it might be my favourite match of the entire weekend, but it's a high bar. I might have to watch the WrestleMania again just to kind of actually figure out what was my favourite, because they nailed the variety, which is something I normally applaud AEW for doing. But this WrestleMania, so many of the different matches were strong for different reasons that it's very difficult to compare them. So actually picking a favourite is just going to be personal opinion. Like, what do you personally prefer in terms of all of these different styles? Because we're offering the different styles. And my personal one are 3 European lads fighting over the Intercontinental Championship. So it's truly intercontinental. Just beating the crap out of each other. Just hitting. It's like, I loved it. Absolutely loved it. After that, we got the Raw Women's Championship. Bianca Belair versus Asuka. I say after that, and I move on swiftly as if there wasn't another 15 minutes of filler. But Bianca Belair versus Asuka. Another top-notch match on this WrestleMania weekend. I thought this was also really strong. I do feel like there's quite a few people getting tired of Bianca Belair's reign, and a lot of few people were down on this night just because they thought Bianca Belair's time was kind of up and they're getting bored of her as champion. I genuinely feel Bianca Belair as a character and as a champion, especially as a wrestler, absolutely fine as staying as champion, but she hasn't had any interesting stories. And I think that's what's being felt. And that's being confused into that means she must lose the belt because she's actually a boring champion. Which I'm like, I think she's a great champion. But her stories are crap. And these people aren't being given a good reason to get invested in her as champion. So you need to give them that. You need to get them invested in her as a character. And it's like, yeah, her character's fine. Just give her a story to cement it and really kind of get that feeling back. Both the entrances, they were fantastic. And just Asuka is so good. Just with all of the different ones with the different masks, and then you get to her at the end. Her outfit is just incredible, and it slowly pulls across the mask, and you see the face paint on. It's like, it's so good, so good. But Bianca Belair's dancing kids were absolutely incredible. Like, and I let out the biggest involuntary when the little one came out at the end. I was just like, oh my god. Genuinely, they were really good in terms of the dance that they were doing, and the reaction I gave when the little one came out at the end, and then Bianca comes out too and dances through kind of the line of them standing aside. I was just like, this is another all-timer WrestleMania entrance on Bianca Belair, because I thought her one last year when she faced Becky Lynch, I thought that was fantastic. That's another one that I just really enjoy when I've rewatched that WrestleMania. This one was like, that was so good, so good. Well, it's one of those ones where I always want to show it to non-wrestling fans just to see if they make the same involuntary reaction that I did when the little dancer came out. I was just like, oh my god, oh, such an involuntary reaction. Maybe I've just reached that point in my life where I find the adorable little ones just unbearably adorable. Maybe you reached a certain age. Anyway. Yeah, both entrances fantastic for two completely different reasons. Unsurprisingly, these two were both fantastic in the ring together. And even out of it, like, good God, the powerbomb that Bianca took on the outside from Asuka, just like, oh, Jesus, they properly thumped to that one. Asuka constantly trying to ground Bianca, but she keeps powering out. Bianca trying to hit her flashy moves, but Asuka keeps cutting the legs out from under her, and you build from there. Just that's the basis of your match. Just build from there. Go. Great stuff. For me, the actual awesome point was just the second half of this match. It felt like the match of two halves where I really did like the groundwork they were laying. I did feel like some of the execution was a little bit sloppy, which I found a little bit surprising given just the high caliber of the talent that were in there. But the second half, my God, did that hit really, really well. Especially the final sequence after Bianca ducked the poison mist. That was so good. So good. Especially in the end, it's the amazing visual of Bianca Belair having to really power up with Asuka onto her shoulders and hit the KOD. It's, yeah, really, really well done. And yeah, again, another match I was a massive fan of, but it's especially the second half of it. Compared to like the Intercontinental Championship, where I was just, the entire thing just like, ugh. Wrestling, yes. Yeah, I loved it. Miz and Snoop with an out to announce the attendance again. Suddenly, a moment of just 5 minutes of absolute madness came after this. I don't know how else to word it. Just an absolute bizarre. Is this a dream? What am I watching? Kind of thing. It's like, Vince is definitely back. Just because of that feeling of I've missed it where you're just watching the wrestling show and they just have a 5-minute period that's meant to be funny, but it's just so incredibly bizarre and it just somehow gets even weirder where you're just like, what am I watching? What just happened here? So yeah, Miz and Snoop having their thing where suddenly in an aid to fight on Snoop's behalf, he calls down Shane McMahon, where the last time we saw him was the absolute cluster F of the Royal Rumble that he had booked. Vince McMahon apparently saying that Shane McMahon would never get a pop as long as he's in charge. Well, joke's on you, you're not in charge anymore. Shane McMahon returns a year and a half later, or a year and a couple of months, to this next few minutes of complete bizarreness. He returns. He buckles his knee, has to exit via medical attention as the cameras stop paying attention to him. Snoop Dogg does an absolutely incredible level of improvisation and goes straight to the knocking out Miz bit, which was obviously meant to come later, but Snoop did an incredible job knocking him out and asking Shane, are you okay? And that just brought everything together because then they can just immediately switch into Snoop hitting Miz again and going into his thing to really save the spot. It's like incredible level of, like, I have to applaud Snoop. He took what could have been an absolute disaster given what happened to Shane and then turned it into a memorable WrestleMania moment. Like, well done, Snoop. Really well good. Also, there's the point of, like, obviously it takes more than one to tango. So maybe they're probably likely that he and Miz and the producers around the ring, or just the feed going to them, just like, let's just jump to this bit, let's just do this. Just go straight to it. Everyone involved, a massive round of applause because they absolutely saved this segment. Creating a WrestleMania moment as Snoop Dogg runs the ropes like he's Kenny Kelly and hits the crappiest people's elbow that you've ever seen. It's like, love you, Snoop. In the words of Sasha Banks, when he hit a frog splash in AEW, he was like, need a word. It's like, come on. What is this? Yeah, but it was just that. It's just 5 minutes of when WWE sometimes decides to do comedy and surprises. Sometimes you just end up with the most bizarre 5 minutes of your life. And this was one of those moments. Like, I cannot put into words just that the mad dream feeling that you just suddenly entered for this little segment. So yeah, that was a bit. That was wild. But that was obviously either side of advertisement time filler. So if you weren't for this and you were just ready to jump into Edge versus Finn Balor and then get really excited for the main event, like, no. You got 15-20 minutes of bullshit. This is the Nick Khan WWE. You've got advertisement and sponsorship. Then you come back for the higher paid for sponsorship. Then the video package plays. Then you get the sponsorship for the match advertisement played. Then the people coming out is like, oh my god. And then as they're coming out, that's when you get the AR graphics. That's when you get their names are sponsored by this. You get the advertisement reads. Then you see that the boards are around there. If it's the Rey Mysterio stuff, then you see the Cinemoji stuff. Oh, one thing with the Cinemoji thing is, at least with that one, I found out later, Rey Mysterio, his face is on some of the Cinemoji boxes in select stores. It might even just be select Walmarts. I thought I heard it is. Yeah, so at least that's a partnership that he is related to. I don't even know what Mike's Hard Lemonade to do with any of the 3 European lads. That drink is not sold outside of America. We do not know anything about it. So why are these 3 European lads getting it? It's a higher caliber match. Anyway, the next match, Hell in a Cell, sponsored by Russell Crowe's new movie. I swear the fans booed when they had the kind of graphic along the bottom when they did a wide shot of the stadium during a downtime in the match. The panning shot of the crowd, and on the bottom pops up Russell Crowe's new film. And I thought I heard a boo from the crowd. I was just like, go away. We're watching the wrestling. This was a decent little cell match. It's not really my cup of tea, but my thumbs up that it really brought the violence that's much needed and often lacking in these matches. So, yeah. Also, Russell Crowe did a promo for this match. That was not on my bingo card. Like an actual Hollywood actor. Well done, WWE. You finally got one. I mean, they got Kevin Hart. But still, they got him. Edge coming out to Slayer like the 90s metalhead that he is. Not sure about the Glitterborn mask, but you do you, bud. Our first proper demon entrance at WrestleMania as well. So I give that round of applause as well. Little golf clap. And the cell's no longer red. Another little golf clap. And don't worry though. All of the weapons are colour-coded red and purple. Don't you worry, you still got your randomly coloured, the bollocks stuff in WWE. It wasn't fully gone. Like, you've simply just got to incorporate the branded colours for each wrestler. Like, there's no other way to do this match. Like, stop complaining. There is no other way to do this match. As I watch Finn Balor hit Edge with a purple kendo stick. Like, what is this? I was like, but then Edge hit him with a purple kendo stick, and I'm like, you can't hit him with the purple one. Yours a red, Edge. That's not your kendo stick. What are you doing? Use your red one. The purple ones aren't yours. They're the Judgment Day branded kendo sticks. Use the Edge red branded kendo stick. You're the Brood Edge, as it said on your Titantron. Yeah, hilarious. Upping the physicality as the match wore on. Smartly giving the table spot away early to shut up the fans. It's a chant I personally just... It grinds me. It's like, ugh. When the fans start chanting, we want tables, when I'm watching a match and getting invested in it. It's like, oh, you want the arbitrary thing, do you? Oh, fine, whatever. I guess we're not able to do anything more complex than give us the arbitrary smash through the wood, please. It's like, fine, whatever. But the match unfortunately got a temporary stoppage as Finn took a ladder to the face and got opened up the hard way, quite high up. I don't know if he's like properly on his scalp or whatever, but he apparently, according to Somerset Fightful, he did have to get, like, there and then, he got a numbing injection and he got staples. Just there and then returned to the match. Which reminds me of the Dean Ambrose thing at WrestleMania 31? I think it was 31 in Silicon Valley. In the ladder match where he took a power bomb from Ricardo of all people as well, like to the ladder on the outside. And it's just his story of it, which I found absolutely hilarious. It's the way he told it, where he'd taken the bump through the ladder. And then a WWE doctor comes over to him and checking him stuff because he's clearly like taking a cut from it, and because the crowd's really loud as well, they said to him, "So okay, we're gonna have to staple you now." He goes, "What? Bang! Fuck!" Oh, it hurt. That was the stuff. Oh, amazing! I love that story. I do apologise if I peaked the audio. I've done it now. But yeah, back underway. And running, they then ran hot with the final flow. I do agree with what kind of Meltzer's review of this for this point was, as soon as this point came here, they just did big moves. They just went at it and they hit it with a really awesome kind of flow and intensity to it. They were like, we are going to get you back into this match, and they did. They nailed that kind of like feeling to it. Like an education off the ladder, a coup de grace through a table off a ledge halfway up the cell. Why is there a ledge halfway up the cell? Don't think about it. Watch the table go smash. Yeah. A concerto for the win for Edge as well. Branded red concerto for Edge to win. Really good stuff for that kind of thing. Again, it's not my kind of match, but I have a lot of positives for it. It's like, if this is your thing, you probably really enjoyed it. It's just not my thing. I don't massively get into these matches like that, and I don't know if it's Edge matches that I sometimes struggle to get into. But I did really enjoy the Extreme Rules match, and I really enjoyed the mixed tag one. But as soon as this one was even put to paper, I was like, it's one of those ones where I knew it could be won over because I really enjoyed like Edge's previous stuff with Finn. But it's just with this match, it's kind of like, I don't know, because you could go one of two ways. One is you follow that pattern that I have enjoyed all of your recent stuff, or it's other Edge stuff where it's just a bit long and boring for my personal taste. It was somewhere in the middle, but the fact that they brought that violence, I do feel like if this is your cup of tea, then you will really enjoy this. So in that way, it's like where the nerdy thing of, means I kind of automatically give it a good review. It's like, no, I can tell that if this is your thing, you will like it. Therefore, it is a good review. That's why my personal enjoyment list and the critique level list are two different things. So, yeah. Bianca, after that, it's got the final notes where we got the Bianca Belair backstage interview after this. She got to celebrate with her little dancers and a nice little feature for them. Then got the Hall of Fame folk with their walkout onto the stage. Stacey Keibler has not aged a day. How? It's been 23 years. How do you look exactly the same? What magical waterfall do you have in your garden? It's crazy. To be fair, Rey Mysterio with the way that he wound back the years by getting that operation, which is like, oh yeah, awesome to see him in that way. Great Muta as well, awesome to see. To be fair, if you've watched any of his retirement stuff from Japan, I've seen a lot of Muta recently. It's actually interesting to see him in the WWE world, where he feels like some kind of entity that doesn't really belong. It's really weird. Like he doesn't feel like a WWE entity in any way. But he's a man I know from all the Japanese stuff. It's like, oh, that's Muta. He's an absolute legend. Here in WWE, it feels weird that he's stood here, that this absolute Japanese legend is standing among these WWE massive names. It's interesting, certainly. So yeah. Anyway, and that brings me to the end of the WrestleMania Goes Hollywood Night 2 Sunday review part 2. I really enjoyed WrestleMania this year. I thought both shows absolutely brought it home in completely different ways. I think I preferred Night 1 overall, but I don't know if a lot of that has to do with the fact that this show had massive pacing problems, so maybe I'm able to wind through. And to be fair, I'm going to watch the Intercontinental Championship match again. Like, that might be my favourite over the course of 2 nights. I absolutely adored that match. Just again, I called it eye-wateringly spectacular. I don't type down those 2 words if I don't think it's something special. I'm going back to that match. But I really enjoyed WrestleMania this year. I really enjoyed it. Like last year's did have that feeling of a mad dream at times, and it was a bit like it was uncohesive last year's WrestleMania. Whilst this one had a very strong identity and feeling to it, whilst also delivering on variety, making it a really easy watch both times. Like last year's WrestleManias, I was tired by the end of both of them. Whilst this year, like by the time it's reached the end of both shows, like I've got all the energy to talk about it. So that's a sign, especially because I'm British and I'm watching it so late. When the main event of this show starts at 4 a.m. and I'm not tired, that says a lot. That says so much. But yeah, so for me, a massive success in WrestleMania. It does sound like the sponsorship idea was a massive success as well, and it's an absolute turn in terms of like a generation for the company because of the deal as well. It's not just like the success of WrestleMania, what they achieved for this one in terms of what they elevated and what they can do going forward in terms of this is what we want the company to be going forward. There's a lot of those little things like Nick Khan getting his impression like properly cemented on a WWE product, like his ideas you're seeing in front of you. The new CEO is making those changes and impacts, and then we've got the Endeavour stuff as well. It's like there's a lot. This is like and most importantly as well, this is the creatives' first big swing at a major pay-per-view. and now we get to see the aftermath of it for the first time. So I have got a lot of applause for this WrestleMania. Really, really enjoyed it. But as well, like, it's one of those where the main event, it all depends what comes after. Because the main event itself was like a really well wrestled. Really, fans are so into everything they were doing. It's just it's more of the critique of the booking decision. Of was this the right idea to do that? Because they had done everything to convince you that Cody Rhodes was going to win. Was it the right idea to then not give it you and to believe in themselves that they can create another guy to do that, or you do it later down the road? So I did see a different comment actually with the idea. I do believe earlier, Nathan Carey earlier, believe that The Rock. Oh, he believes that The Rock will come back and turn on Reigns, and Cody wins the belt, and then Rock fights Reigns at WrestleMania 40. It's just that thing of, is that going to happen? Is Rock ever coming back to do that one match? Because I think that's the one thing I kind of agree with, is whenever Roman is no longer champion, you have him face Roman in a one-on-one match at the next WrestleMania. I think that's what you do for me. Because I think they wanted Rock versus Roman at this WrestleMania, and maybe that makes the kind of continuation work. But for me, one of my biggest critiques of the Vince era with Reigns as champion, not one WrestleMania had he fought a modern day guy. The closest was Brock Lesnar, but he was like a part-time kind of bigger name from that past generation. He had that massive kind of feeling to him. By the time Reigns was facing him, he's not a modern day see him every week on TV kind of guy. This was the first WrestleMania that had a modern day star facing Reigns, and they built the guy up to feel like a modern day star that could genuinely dethrone him. And that means so much in terms of the future of the company. Just because this is the first WrestleMania where they actually had Reigns face a modern day guy. In Reigns' entire history in this company. First of all, that's egregious that that's true. But secondly, I mean, to be fair, maybe I'm being a bit harsh because he did face Daniel Bryan and Edge at the Pirate WrestleMania, but still, it's like, but it was going to be just Edge, and they realised, we do need to actually do this. So it was originally going to be yet another big name from the past, where they got a lot of the veteran kind of pop guy for Roman Reigns to defeat again, just to add to that list of names. But he's not. You're not cementing your generation with this. You're trying to get your champion over, which is not the same as cementing the current generation. I felt like that's what this WrestleMania did. This WrestleMania did something that Vince McMahon has been completely blind to, and that was put over this current generation. Create stars of today instead of just being stuck in the past and nostalgia. And that's my biggest applause for this WrestleMania. They cemented, overall the course of both shows, they cemented the current generation, and they tried to present them as stars, which, that means so much. That means so much. Do you want me, Terence, to acknowledge Roman Reigns as the undisputed champion, to sign off of this show? Is that how I'm signing off? Doing the point. Does it count if I lean back and do it? I don't actually know how to frame it right, especially as I'm on delay watching the YouTube preview. I don't know how to fit it in frame. This feels like a pathetic attempt at it. I do apologise. I will acknowledge it. I will. I will do it. I've done it. It's fine. It's all right. I know I've done it now. Right, I'm going to go to bed because it is 6 o'clock in the morning, and massive applause to this show. Really big thumbs up. So you can follow me on Twitter. My name is Matt Maher, aka Imp, at the Damn Implicat. That's damn as in damn. The implications with 2 S's for Twitch, which I've again not streamed that for months, but it's there. Maybe I will do it again at one point. My friend wants me to play Stray, and he thinks I will love it because I'm quite childish. I'll probably just me out TV. Anyway, there's wrestling headlines. That's on Twitter, Wrestle without an E, and the Facebook page for wrestling headlines to get all your latest wrestling news and all that stuff. I will be back for, is it the Puerto Rico show next? That's what they're hyping. That was it. For the Aftershock show, for the Puerto Rico show, for WrestleMania Backlash. Again, another really good bit of business that for me. Doing that show, you get Bad Bunny hosting it. So I'll be back for Bad Bunny times. So it means I'm not covering the Raw after WrestleMania. I'm not staying up late 4 nights in a row. I've done that in the past and it killed me. So this is it. I'm dead tomorrow. I've done 2 of these in a row. This is me done. Hall of Fame, which I watched, and these which I actually covered. I'm dead now. Bye. No, I will not do the Raw after WrestleMania. Anyway, Reed Hustle, the Hustle's Go Live column, which is also up for this show, which went up whilst I was live. With that, bid you adieu. Adios. I don't know why I'm being so dramatic with it. It Reigns with his whole... I've acknowledged Reigns and it's just the whole dramatic nature of his presentation. Goodbye. I'm done. Good night. Good night.